cease and desist. I, together with many attorneys and legal scholars, am watching the sanctity of the 2024 presidential election very closely because I know better than most the rampant cheating and skullduggery that has taken place by the Democrats in the 2020 presidential election. It was a disgrace to our nation. Therefore, the 2024 election, where votes have just started being cast, will be under the closest professional scrutiny. And when I win, those people that cheated will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences so that this depravity of justice does not happen again. We cannot let our country further devolve into a third world nation, and we won't. Please beware that this legal exposure extends to lawyers, political operatives, donors, illegal voters, and corrupt election officials. Those involved in unscrupulous behavior will be sought out, caught, and prosecuted at levels, unfortunately, never seen before in our country. Nick, is there any chance on God's green earth that Trump won't claim that the election was stolen if he loses?
Yeah, no. And I mean, the real question for Trump is whether he'll continue to insist it was fake, even if he wins, which he did after 2016. 77% of Americans are very confident or confident about the election integrity of their local areas. That's pretty high. I don't think there is, in reality, any large-scale voter fraud that has been shown to be determinative in elections. One of the things that I'll add to Catherine's claim about the sowing of dissent about the election is this is something where the Democrats have to also own 8 years now of Russiagate and of claiming that Hillary Clinton lost in large part because of some kind of electoral interference. When major party members are shouting from the rooftops that our election systems don't have integrity, that is a real problem. But I think most Americans recognize whoever wins the election, and the votes will be counted partly on the day of, and then it's about 50% of votes are going to be done early voting, so it's going to take a while to count those after the election. I think the vast majority of people will accept the vote tallies because they do reflect who we voted for.
Peter, what can you tell us that we don't know about electoral voting, election? The good word, the trustworthiness or something.
Integrity.
I think there's trouble. Matt has trouble saying integrity, recognizing integrity.
I think that's the thing we didn't know.
Yeah.
There's going to be skullduggery. And I'm very worried about this. And I think this needs to be part of our political project going forward, is that both parties, the senior representatives, officials, people who are in charge of, who are running for president or who are involved in presidential campaigns, need to find some way to come together and lay out conditions in advance that they will, under which they will accept defeat. And this is one of the big problems with Donald Trump, is that when you ask him, will you accept defeat? He will only say, well, I'll accept the results if it's fair and I'm going to win. And he basically won't commit to accepting defeat under any specific circumstances in advance. And the Democrats are also bad on a bunch of this stuff in different ways, but Trump is the worst about this. Trump is absolutely committed to simply not accepting any results that he doesn't like. And that's not the same as being willing to accept results that are unpleasant but true. And this is what we saw in 2020. It was a bad scene that Trump at least allowed, sometimes tacitly encouraged, arguably directed in at least some of the specifics coming from the Oval Office. It is a bad scene. And when you don't have the ability to have a peaceful transfer of power where one side says, I lost, I admit that I lost, I'm upset about it, it's unfortunate, I don't support this other person, but I lost, and we are now going to accept that I lost the election. When you don't have both sides pre-committing to those conditions, you end up in the situation we are in which a lot of people who live in big cities are afraid that there is going to be rioting, that there's going to be unrest. Our building here at Reason is sending out like emergency instructions for what is going to happen in the days after Election Day. I know that this is just a concern that is happening all over the city here in D.C., but also in New York. And that is a terrible, terrible position to be in, where we shouldn't have to take emergency action to board up a building, to have extra security, to say, look, what are we going to do? We've had meetings about what we are going to do if there are riots on the streets in Washington, D.C. That doesn't mean that we're definitely going to have them. That doesn't mean that it's a sure thing. But it is a bad scene. It is a bad situation in which this is now assumed that if Donald Trump doesn't win the election, he is going to say, actually, I did win the election. And then he is going to take some action, whether it's completely ridiculous or deadly serious or some combination of both. We have no idea. But then he is going to take some action after he says, I actually won the election, even though all the evidence says he did. If that is the situation we end up in, which I don't know. But if that is the situation we end up in, that is going to be an ugly couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months, and maybe an ugly couple of years for America. That was a clip from the latest episode of the Reason Roundtable. To watch another clip, click here. To watch the whole episode, click here. And make sure to subscribe to the Reason Roundtable. You'll be glad you did.